So, hi, welcome, Lorraine. So, today you are going to tell us all about you and your lovely company called Flourish. Tell me everything there is to know. How did you start your business? Who you are, where you come from, whatever comes to mind at the moment.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much for having me here. I feel really, really grateful. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Um, so good morning, everybody. My name's Lorraine, as Amanda's already introduced. My background actually was in teaching. So I graduated from uni with a degree in musical theatre, so all the jazz hands. And then I fell into teaching. And I was teaching kind of for about 4 years, when in 2011 I basically had a complete burnout. Um, it's hard when you look back on it now. I can see, you can see the triggers, you can see what was happening. But at the time, you're so caught up in everything that's going on and in the constant doing that often you don't notice what's going on. So really, that was a massive turning point for me to be where I am today and to launching Flourish, because ultimately I look back at myself then and I had very, very low self-esteem. I never felt I was good enough. And that showed up in my life as people pleasing and perfectionism, right? So, I was very fortunate. I kind of stumbled into the world of personal development. Very much initially, it was the kind of, think more positive, like work on your mindset, the kind of things that often we fall into when we look at personal growth and personal development. And then as I kind of went on this huge journey over the last 11 years, I've kind of really learned so much about myself, and I'd say that it was that transformation that led me to found my company Flourish, because in 2020, and we have a little bit of a similar story in this, in that in 2020 I unfortunately lost my dad to pancreatic cancer. It was only 61, and at that time I kind of had a moment where I was like, what am I doing?
Hmm.
I had this sudden realization that there were a lot of things in my life that no longer brought me joy, or that no longer felt aligned with who I truly was. So, I'd left teaching, I'd started a business, I'd run that business for 10 years. And I realized that I was still doing what I was doing because I thought I should, and I thought I had to, and I thought I must. And after my dad died, I went, no, like life is too short to be stuck doing stuff that doesn't light you up every single day, like that doesn't excite you, that doesn't inspire you. And really, that is where Flourish was born from. Flourish was born from this: what do I really want to do, and how do I really want to show up and serve myself and serve the world? And it came from, I got really clear on my values, and I want to inspire and empower women to be the best version of themselves. And when I say that, what I mean is who they truly already are, like in there, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And I wanted to do that. And it's kind of, as Flourish has grown and developed, it very much started in October. I'm only less than a year old, my business.
Okay.
So it started very much as like people, a lot of my clients were wanting to create more balance in their lives, to feel more level-headed, more grounded, more stable, more secure, to feel more safe.
Yeah,
It started out very much, which I'm not surprised, having us gone through the whole COVID crisis,
yeah.
that a lot of people are feeling uprooted, right? And as my business has evolved, what I've noticed is that a lot of what I do now is also about, well, how does that transfer to business?
Mm.
So that for me, Flourish is about, right, the groundwork has to be in place, like the roots, right? Self-love, self-compassion, self-trust, self-belief, self-confidence. Like that's the groundwork of whatever you want to do in your life.
Mm.
And then as my business has grown, the flourishing aspect has been like, right, if we can get this groundwork in place, how can you grow a business in a way that feels inspired, and where you feel empowered, and where you feel connected to yourself and connected to others,
Yeah.
and where you can really do what you love every day, but and grow in a way that feels good. So, for me, that's where I'm at now with my business. Is I'm creating this brand that it's got multi kind of very, very layered approach to it, but it comes from how I used to feel about myself. I think we often do, right? When we grow a business, it starts out as, right, well, who was I and what help did I need?
Yeah.
at points in my journey. And then I've gone, right, well, I can create that because I've come through that. So I can help somebody else come through that.
Mm.
So yeah, that's me and that's Flourish.
Okay. And so, my initial question, I can feel, I work with energy, so I feel people's emotions. I can very much feel that energy of grief that's still very present for you because it's very soon. I mean,
Yeah, of course it is.
um, and I just wondered how often you give yourself the time to sit and to grieve because I know myself when I went through that journey, I didn't. I ran off and tried to do lots of things and cover it up and not feel. And so just that was my first kind of question for you is what time do you give yourself?
Yeah. Like I feel that we have to give ourselves time like every day. And I would be completely hands up honest. It doesn't always happen every day.
Mm.
But if we have an intention, and I'm going to get really emotional with you guys now because that's how
Yeah.
I'm feeling right now. And I think it's important.
Yeah.
Um, we have to give ourselves time to listen to ourselves. And that's the biggest mistake we can make. And I think for me, when I was very fresh in the grieving process, I think the grieving process for me started before I knew my dad's diagnosis because I knew, like intuitively, I'm quite an intuitive
Okay.
person.
Okay.
And I knew that I knew something was wrong before I got told something was wrong,
Right.
right? So he got his diagnosis in the November of 2019, and I already knew that something wasn't right. I could feel it in every part of my body. And I saw it in my reactions of how I was coping with things, or how I was um, asking for his help more with things, like pulling him into my life in a lot more than perhaps I had done before. And I think, when he did pass, up until the point up till the month before, I had been so caught up in doing, right? Because, right, it's so much easier to numb it out when you don't give yourself space to think and don't give yourself space to feel.
Yeah.
And my way of numbing out for me was I used to throw myself 100% into the business I had then. So, my best month in business for like 2 years was the month before my dad died.
Mm.
And when my dad died, I went, but at what cost?
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
At what cost? Because I'd been doing and doing and doing and pushing and pushing and forcing. And because that's how I'd learned how to cope with things. That's
Mm.
how what I'd learned growing up was like, you put your big girl pants on and you get on with it.
Mm.
Right. But when my dad died, for me, it was a massive shift because I realized that what I'd been doing hadn't been working
Yeah.
because you squash it down and you squash it down. And I think of it like a pan of potatoes, right, on the stove. You've bubbling away and they're bubbling away and they're bubbling away. And all you're doing when you don't deal with the emotions and you put the lid on it is it's just going to bubble out the sides and it's going to go all over the stove and then it's going to go all over the floor. Like if you don't tackle it. So for me, I do a lot of journaling. That's something that I've learned to rely on, but also something for me that I've used is EFT because what I realized was that if I sit and think if I sit and think, often I would find that my brain is on the go like quite a lot of the time and it would get caught up in other things.
Mm.
Whereas if I focused on how I feel first and foremost and I
Mm.
go, right, okay, well, how am I feeling today? And asking yourself that simple question, like whether
Yeah.
it be in the mirror, go like, how do I feel today?
Mm.
And then listen, because your body knows how you feel, doesn't it? Like
Mm.
if you listen to your body, you can go, okay, so I feel a little bit anxious. Okay, where's that feeling in my body? Okay, it's in my heart or it's in my solar plexus, or you can feel into where it is in your body, and then you can go, right, okay, this what triggered this. Is it a particular thought that I can put my point on, or is it a general feeling of uneasiness, and where does it come from? And particularly with my grief, I'm surrounded by people who in my family who don't process their emotions.
Right.
right?
Like the rest, like all of us, really, we all have to learn how to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
And I think
not something that comes naturally to a lot of us.
and I think that's it. I think most, and it's, we all know that we learn who we are right now is a combination of our belief systems and our habits and everything that we come to be to right now. And I grew up around that environment, and I remember, if I look back at my adult life, and there were several times where I had challenges that I was facing, and the attitude was, well, just get on with it.
Yeah.
And it's not until you get, what I kind of say is that it's not until you've reached breaking point that you go, shit, excuse my language, but you
No,
go,
swear away.
you go, it's not till, so often we wait until we get to breaking point to deal with what we need to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a lot easier if you give yourself the space before you think you need it.
Yeah.
Right? Why wait till overwhelm? Why wait till burnout? Why wait till that point where everything is literally overflowing from you? Like literally the emotion is pouring out because it does nowhere else to go, right? You've filled yourself so full that it has nowhere else to go. Why wait to that point?
Mm.
So I've learned I'd say it's like my little toolkit. So I have little tools that I rely on for different things. So depending on how I'm feeling and what I want to process, sometimes it might be that I use breath work. Breath work's been amazing for me for the grieving process.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Is
it's
that something that you do on your own, or is that a practice that you do in a group or with other people, or?
so I have done it in a group.
Yeah.
In terms of my daily life, as it were, it's something that I go to when I feel that I don't know what a word for it, but kind of like it's almost like catching my breath. Like if I've got a history of having anxiety, so it's been something that I've learned to manage over the last 10 years. And if I'm having that feeling coming up, I'm like, okay, cool. Because when we focus on our breath, we come back to the present moment and we can really feel our body. Like we
Yeah.
can really feel into it, can't we?
Yeah.
So I have done it in groups, but mostly it's my go-to. In fact, I did 2 minutes breath work before I came on this call today.
Brilliant.
It's just
Good.
really, really
Good.
grounded before I came to chat with you.
Good.
So yeah.
And my other question is about your business. What is it that you do for people? Do you do one-to-one work with people, or do you do group work? How does it work?
Yeah, so I started my business working purely on one-to-ones initially.
Hmm.
That's kind of, I suppose, because that's what I was taught to do. I'm accredited as a life coach as well as a business coach.
Right.
So that's the process that I went through. Was like, right, okay, learn how to help people on a one-to-one basis. Learn how to ask the deep questions, the ones that help somebody to discover things for themselves, right? Empower the person. Is that whole idea of, don't give them the fish, teach them how to fish. So my work started off as very, very much one-to-one work, and then as it's evolving, I've actually got a group program which launches. That program starts the first week of November, so I've got kind of a free challenge and masterclass and stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. And that's a group program because what I realized is it was business owners I was chatting to, and I was like, I'm really passionate about people making money from what they do, as in loving every aspect of what they do and understanding they don't have to work harder, they just have to work smarter and be in alignment, right? Love what you do and the money will follow.
Yeah.
And I decided I was going to hold this focus group, and I was like, what do you really need? And the overwhelming thing that came up was support. What they really wanted was, I know what I meant, I know, right? Logical mind. I know what I meant to do, but I feel like I'm unsupported. I feel like I want support. I feel like I want accountability. So I've got a group program that launches as I say, starts the first week of November, and it's a 12-week program, which is about that particular program is about helping business owners to grow their business in a way that feels joyful, that feels exciting, that feels expansive, that rewards them financially for their unique gifts and skills and experience, but where they felt held, right?
Yeah.
It's a mastermind essentially, and like a group mentoring process.
Great.
So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And then I've got next year I'm going to be launching a membership as well, because one of the things I
Yeah.
hear from people a lot is, oh, I just wish you were in my pocket and I could talk to you every day. And I was like, okay, how can I be in people's pockets so they can have a little dose of Lorraine every day? And I was like, do you know what, the best way to do that's going to be a membership, so
Yeah.
that people can check in and they can get what they need from me and the space on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I've got that coming too. But so yes, I've got one-to-one. I do a 12-week program for that, or I have one-to-one as a burst, like a clarity call or a strategy call. Then I've got the group program, and then as I say, the membership's going to come next year, which is exciting.
Fabulous. Fabulous. And so when has the group program started, or is it coming up?
It's coming up.
Okay.
So literally tomorrow I start advertising my free challenge.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
so literally it's very exciting. So I've got a free 3-day challenge that's coming and a masterclass. And it's all about, what I find is that often we have loads of ideas for growing our business, but it's often too much. Like, it's too overwhelming. The thoughts are like, right, okay, I've got all of these ideas about what I could do, but what's the best next step for me?
Yeah.
And this is about helping business owners in these 3 days and in this masterclass to go, right, okay, what is my personal aligned business growth strategy?
Hmm.
Because I can't tell you that. I can't say, right, this is how
No,
you should build your business. There's no blueprint that works,
no.
because everybody's unique. But
Yeah.
it's about helping people to get into that space and start thinking outside the box about what they want to create. So that then that's going to lead into the group program, which obviously is going to be that supportive space, so that people are taking action to grow the thing that said they want to grow. So,
Yeah.
they might come and say, right, I really want to do this course. I've got this lady who really, really wants to create this course for helping women with growing in confidence. And she's going, I've been thinking about it for a year, she says to me. And I'm like, yeah, because the thing is most of us are so caught up in the day-to-day of running of our business
Yeah.
that we don't create the space and the time
Yeah.
to focus on that thing. And
And
that's what the
and
GOAT program is
actually,
going to do.
what they say is, you don't become successful by spending all your time thinking about what you're going to achieve. You've got to just get out there and action it, and not be too afraid for it to be perfect, to drop the perfection, to get out and do something. And you learn as you grow, as you perform, as you get out there and achieve. You then learn what is good and what isn't good, and you can develop and change and grow from that, and learn from your mistakes and learn from your failures as well. So
100%. And I think most people, what happens is they have an idea, but their head runs away with them, and they go into overthink mode. They go into worry mode. They go, what if nobody wants to buy this thing? What if I spend loads of time doing this thing? What if I don't know the next process? What if I don't know how to do the tech? What if I don't know how to grow and nurture an audience? What if I don't know how to launch? What if? So they don't take the first step.
mm,
So that is the point of my GROW program, is to go, right, okay, let's get clear on who you are, what your ideal life and your business looks like. Because what's the point of creating things for your business that don't sit in alignment with the vision you want to create, right? So if you want to work 5 hours a week on your business, don't create something that is going to mean you're going to be working 30 hours a week. If
yeah,
you want to be present for your kids' sports days and things, don't create programs that are going to, or, look at your business and go, right, well, I'm going to take 6 weeks off over the summer.
yeah,
And I can, because you're going to build a business that you love, that fits your lifestyle.
yeah,
And then, right, once you're clear on what you want to do, because it feels good for you and it's aligned with your vision and your values and your passions and your priorities, then we're going to take action together, because it's so much more fun and easier when you know that if you're not sure about taking an action, that you've got somebody there who's going, cheering you on, going, you can do this. I know you can do this. Just do it and see what happens. What's the worst that's going to happen? It's so much easier when you've got somebody who's going to support you and hold you accountable. And that's where this program kind of came from, because I know so many people have done courses and they've gone, well, I did this great course and I learned how to do such and such, but then they haven't actioned it because the support isn't there. I
right,
thought, right, I can hold the space. I can be the support. I can be the
yeah,
person who goes, right, do you know what? Let's do this together. Let's grow this together. Let's spend the next 90 days, the next 3 months actively growing this part of your business, doing something you love.
Brilliant. You've got so much energy and enthusiasm. It's great. I love it. I think, God, everybody will want to sign up tomorrow because it's just perfect. My question is now kind of again bringing you back again to what your feelings are, because
Mm.
um, you're you're so passionate about where you are, and you appear so confident and so knowledgeable, and you come across beautifully. And I think I'm my thinking to myself, how could she ever be lacking in self-confidence? How could you have ever felt that way? Because I
Yeah,
look at you and I see this absolutely stunning woman who's full of life, vitality, energy, and is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So how could you ever believe otherwise? It astounds me, isn't it? And I look at myself in that same light and say,
yeah.
how can we all do such stupid things? Not believe that, why?
Yeah.
What was your reasoning for that?
And I think the thing is that feelings defy logic, right? We can
Yeah,
talk about what's the reasons behind it, but ultimately, we we all are living our own experience. We all like living life our way. And if I look at my life and I look way back, I recently published a chapter in a book, and actually I talk a lot about my journey in that book. And I talk about, I grew up, didn't matter what was happening outside of me, I grew up with the belief that I had to do more, that I had to be better to be good enough. And I think if you don't feel like you are good enough as you are, like if you don't feel that you are enough, right? That's a classic one. I would say it's like I hate to use the term, but pandemic, but I think it is a pandemic situation, not feeling good enough, right? How many people, if they look at why they procrastinate, or they self-sabotage, or they don't take a leap of faith and try go out for a new job or start a business, or they don't take a punt on a new relationship, or they stay where they are because they don't feel that they deserve more, that they're worthy of more, that they can have more. And I look at who I was, I literally rewind 11 years. And as I say, I did performing arts. And in performing arts became my safety net. I was bullied really badly at school, amongst other things. And it became the mask that you can put on.
right.
So I feel like I've spent certainly the last 2 years doing the much deeper work, like the inner child work, the shadow work for myself, breaking down the mask and being more open and vulnerable. Because there's no way I would there's no way I would have talked to you like this 10 years ago, full stop. Because I would have not had the confidence to scam on this call and to share how I genuinely felt.
Mm.
Because I grew up being not intentionally taught, like my parents did the best they could with the resources they had, right? But I grew up believing that like it was all sign of weakness,
Yeah.
to show your feelings,
Yeah.
that you're more likely to get hurt by other people if they think that you're weak. So I had, as I say, lots of belief systems around not being good enough. And because when you feel that at your core, it's something that I grew up with, it's something that I lived out in my life, you create habits in your life that they reinforce that belief system, right? So our brain is so clever. Our brain is so clever, and our subconscious ultimately is always looking to protect us. But our brain will always look for evidence that backs up our belief systems. So if your core belief is that I'm not good enough, for example, like mine was, you will always look for evidence in your external world that validates that belief system.
Mm.
And you will put in place habits and behaviors and processes that validate that belief system.
Mm.
So it's not until you go, oh, that's what I'm doing. And I think that's what I mean. It took me like 8 years of personal growth, if you want to call it, like in quotation marks,
Mm.
of doing what I call the surface level work, which was essentially, some of it was toxic positivity, of pretending everything was okay when it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went, no, I'm actually not okay. And actually, I can see that I've got habits in my life that I'm sabotaging my life because I don't feel I'm good enough. And what's the core problem? That belief system. So if that's how I feel, then I need to work on changing that. And it's having and I talk about courage a lot. It's being courageous enough to recognize that nobody else can make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
We are ultimately the only people who can be responsible for our feelings, and we're the only people who can give them the space they need to be felt. Give yourself the space you need to be heard, like your inner child, if she needs hearing, and then choosing differently. And I think some of us think we can do the choosing differently without doing the listening bit first. And some of us do the listening bit, but stay in that space, right? Of feeling, and not choosing to move beyond it. And I think it's about finding that place where you go, okay, awareness. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I thinking that's causing these feelings? What are the belief systems here that are causing these feelings? Right, this is how I feel. Feel into it. You're allowed to feel every range of emotions. You're human. That is part of the human experience. Once you've felt through it, if you give yourself the space to feel, like, for example, rage. I remember when I got divorced, or when I was going through my divorce, the rage inside me. And the politically correct or socially correct thing to do would have been to squash that rage down, because it's not, nice girls
Not
aren't
very
that
feminine,
angry.
is it? No, exactly.
But actually, what's more powerful? Getting into that rage, working through that rage, pouring out that rage. For me, that involved journaling, and then setting fire to it. Because
Brilliant. I've
me,
done lots of that as well. It's great.
it's so cathartic, right? It also meant feeling the sorrow and the grief attached to that, because there was a grieving in that process too of going through my divorce. For me, that looked like standing up to my thighs in the sea, because I needed to feel grounded. I needed to feel held. I needed to feel safe. So having practices for that, feeling into it, and then going, right, I choose again now. I've processed the emotion. I've given it space to be felt. I've given my thoughts space to be heard, but I choose not to stay here long term. I choose to raise my vibration. I choose, how do I want to feel? What can I do in my day-to-day life that feels good in order to create the feelings that I want to create? And I think, when you say, like, you can't picture me as who I was 10 years ago, I honestly, like, it's that thing. I've heard the saying, like, I wish I could put you, like, your eyes in my head so you could have seen, like, who I genuinely was, because I think it is very easy to look at someone, and this is the big thing with social media, right? You do not know what is going on for anybody other than yourself, ever. You never know. And this is where, if you are somebody who lacks confidence, or doesn't feel good enough, or doesn't trust yourself, or you lack self-belief, or any of the core, what I call the core foundation work to be able to then grow and flourish, the first thing you need to do is stop looking at everybody else, because the answer is not outside of you. It is always inside of you. And you can look at everyone else and go, oh, they look like they've got their life together. They look like they haven't got any problems. I've had times in my business, if I go back, 2016, my business was freaking rocking it. But on the inside, I was broken. Don't believe the show reel that is social media and seeing what other people's lives are, because that isn't the truth in it. So when we look at someone like you look at me and you go, oh, I can't imagine you being like that, because you can't, because you see this now. You see 10 years of me, like, stomping through the mud and of my old belief systems, and going, I choose not to feel that way anymore. I choose to work through that like as I say, the rage and the anger I had attached off the back of my divorce. And I remember I've actually recorded it, because I found it was really powerful. I did an hour and 40-minute tapping session.
Wow.
Just around rage and my anger with my ex-husband. I mean, I felt freaking amazing after it. I mean, you feel that, that's the first thing, was that feeling exhaustion, like pure exhaustion, because you finally said all the things that you've been squashing down.
I presume you found your husband at a stage where you were in that lack of self-belief, lack of self-confidence. So in that stage, you were never going to attract in the right person. It was never really going to, and in a way, it was the right person because it enabled you to come to all of this understanding and all of this growth, because actually you attract in what you need for the time, but they're never going to be the person that are going to let you flourish, because you're not letting yourself flourish, and you're choosing therefore the person. I've done that time and time and time and time again, so many times that I've lost count. And it took me the same process as you, lots of screaming and shouting. I did loads of breath work where I really was raging it out, and finally I kind of come to a deeper understanding of me, and an awareness of my levels of lack of self-confidence and the lack of therefore choosing the wrong things. Yeah, as you say, it all stems within. So we have to look within. We can't keep projecting out onto others how it is, that which I spent years and years doing on all of that. So yeah, it's lovely to see. And I look at I mean, I can only imagine the people bullying you at school would have been through sheer jealousy, looking at you and thinking that you obviously put on a good image of somebody who was in control and looked good, because actually you were feeling sad inside. Is that a reflection of how you were at the time? Is that what was going on? Or
I think, unfortunately, as children, they can be nasty, right? Children can be
yeah,
nasty to each other. Because they don't
particularly
have
girls.
an understanding of consequences,
No.
right? They don't understand that one thing you say at one point in somebody's life can live with them for years and years and years. And for me, I suppose the way to word it is that, like, I've always been academically gifted, right? So something I found school quite easy.
Mm.
And I was also rather on the podgy side at school. I definitely carried a lot of weight, which actually, our weight is interesting, because our weight says also a lot about our
It's a protection, isn't it?
protection, right? So exactly. So it's literally a protection between you and the world. So if you don't feel good, then you are more likely to hold on to weight,
Mm.
because you are protecting yourself from the world, right? So for me, when I was at school, I was academically quite gifted. I was bigger than was probably healthy for the age that I was, and became an easy target, right? The geeky fat kid.
Right.
And if I look at that time in my life, what I did was I hid my light. Yeah. So we all have a beautiful, like a little burst of, like a little flame, a little fire inside of us, which is the light of who you truly are.
Mm.
It's who you're truly destined to be, who the gifts, the skills, the
It's an
talents
inner
you have to
knowing, isn't
share.
it, in a
It's
way, as well?
knowing
Mm.
exactly that, right? And when you are in an experience where you are bullied, or you are picked on, or you're in a relationship where you are squashed down, right? What you learn to do over time is, like, to hide that light, to squash it down, to push it down inside you, like the emotions, right?
Mm.
Push it down inside you, hide it away. Don't be who you truly are, because the message is, you can't be who you truly are, or you'll be bullied, or you'll be picked on, or you'll be X, Y, and Z. That's the belief system. But when I say the message, that's what my brain learnt from this situation. If I am showing up as knowing all the answers in the in class, if I'm showing up like that, if I'm showing up as myself,
Mm.
then nobody will like me.
Mm.
So you learn to squash down who you truly are. And for me, I suppose the amateur dramatics at that time of my life was like my one outlet. It was
Right.
my one place where I could be a bit more of myself, but I'd
Yeah.
still, to cut, amateur dramatics or musical theatre as itself can be quite a toxic profession,
Yeah.
because there's a lot around how you look,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're not skinny enough, you're not tall enough, you're not whatever enough, you're not enough
Yeah.
to do that role,
Yeah.
because you don't look right.
Yeah.
And so my one place that I went for as an outlet to try and be a bit more myself, because it's the thing I loved, right? The singing and the dancing and the acting. was also a place where I also had to put on a mask, because you had to accept there were going to be times when you got emotional hits of, no, you're not going to get that part. No, sorry, rejection, 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 rejection.
Mm.
So, when you think about that kind of that whole experience, and you can see it at any point in your life. Like, I think so what often happens for us is we get to this point in our lives, right, where you are right now. If you're watching this right now, you're watching this on replay, and you can relate to any of what I'm saying. The thing is we don't realize as adults the impact each parts of these our life have had on who we are today.
Yeah.
And it's not until we go back and we work with that little girl who was however old she was, 11 or 12, when she was being bullied, or that woman at 25 who was in a relationship which was toxic, or whatever it is. It's not until we go back and process those things,
Yeah.
and actually go back and look at them. Okay, what did I learn about myself, or what lies did I learn about myself from this experience, and how are they manifesting in my current day life? And how can I in what way didn't I honor who I was then? What ways did I not give her space to be heard, right? Because the biggest thing is when you feel unheard or unsupported in your life, step one, are you listening to and supporting yourself? Because that's the foundation work. Because if we are not listening to and giving ourselves time to listen to ourselves and to support ourselves and honor ourselves, we will always attract other people who aren't going to respect and honor and listen to and support us. So, often it's that kind of thing, as I was saying earlier, it's kind of having the courage to recognize that you are exactly where you are right now, because A, that's where you're meant to be. B, there's something to learn from this step where you are right now. And having the courage to recognize that, as shitty as this sounds, we are all responsible for our own experiences. So if something's not playing out in real life, take responsibility. I'm not saying take responsibility for other people's actions. I'm saying take responsibility for how you feel about it, how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Which is a hard pill to swallow. Like, I remember hearing this quite, like, probably 2 or 3 years into my personal development journey, being like, well, it wasn't my fault I was bullied. It wasn't my fault that this way happened to me. It wasn't my fault that I was growing up thinking that I wasn't loved or whatever. But we have to, until we accept responsibility and are courageous enough to look at the situation and to do the inner work, nothing changes. We just end up caught in these same, like you were saying earlier about relationships, right? Caught in the same relationship over and over again, just with different people.
Yeah.
Caught up in the same things of cycles of procrastination. Like, people, I find this a lot with business owners, because I do a lot of work with people around their money and their money mindset as well. People who consistently get into debt, or consistently never have enough money, or consistently have these problems, right? It's a cycle. Any cycle that's happening in your life and you go, oh, here it comes again, it's because we haven't learned from the lesson the first time round. Yes. Which is why it's come back round to bite us on the butt.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Thank you for being really authentic with your feelings and being able to share all of that today. Beautiful. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap it up?
I mean, I think I've probably talked your ears off, to be fair, but I would just say, I know that this is the work, right? Your life is the work.
Yeah.
And, if you are in a place right now where you feel, I want to say the word is out of alignment, but unsettled, some unease, or you feel just feel a bit squiffy or a bit icky, or you feel not quite right. And if you are prone to do in those times, oh, well, I'll just get on with it. What would happen if you just didn't? What happened if you go, do you know what, I'm not going to do that thing today that I thought I should do, and I'm actually going to take a whole day off for me, or an hour for me, or 2 hours for me, whatever it is you need to go, I'm going to sit with this and where I am right now, because that's where change happens, in those incremental decisions we make, to go, I recognize something's not right now. I also have the power to change it,
Mm.
because you are powerful. Like, you are powerful beyond belief. Like, everything you need is already inside of you. Nobody else is going to come and save you, come and fix you, because you're not broken. You're not. But you have to, at some point, choose you. You have to choose you, and you have to choose to do things differently from how you have in the past for change to happen. So, yeah, that's it.
That's really beautiful. Thank you very much, Lorraine.
You're welcome.
And yeah, I look forward to hearing how full your group course is and you're overflowing with abundance. And because I think you've got an infectious enthusiasm and a grounded knowledge from your own experience, which I think is really beautiful and needed to be shared with other people as well. So I really thank you for coming and showing up today and being here.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
You're welcome.